Okay, great. So we're live and we're hoping for no disasters. And my name is Lisette, and I am with Collaboration Superpowers, and I'm interviewing people and companies who are doing great things remotely. And today on the line, I have a whole group of people from all over the world, from Colombia and San Francisco. Alexandra, Jonathan, and Michael. And you guys are from Unsettled. And welcome. Thanks for being on this show. And I'm going to start with the first question, which is, what does your virtual office look like? And then we'll get into what is Unsettled and what are you guys doing? But let's start with, what does your virtual office look like? What do you need to get your work done?
Thanks, Lizette. Thanks obviously for having us too. Our office is a product of how we travel, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And we travel every 30 days to a new location around the world. And that's an important basis and sort of starting point for how we work. And so the reason we do that is because we believe, as we're moving all the time, it's important for us to put roots down in one place. We find it very difficult to constantly be on the move. A lot of people who now live this lifestyle, this remote work lifestyle like we do, they might be moving from hotel to hotel. And when they arrive in a new city, they have to find the new coffee shops, the new co-working spaces. And that interferes with your scheduling, interferes with your productivity. And you might show up at the co-working space or the coffee shop and your Wi-Fi is not as great as you thought. So for us, a very important part of how our virtual office looks is that every 30 days it's a new place, but we stay there and we ground it for 30 days because we believe that allows us to be productive. So we're sort of right in between a virtual office and an actual short-term in-person office. John, Alex, any thoughts on maybe how the actual internal parts of that look?
So in every location, we set up shop at a local co-working space so that it allows ourselves as well as our participants to really have all the amenities that they need to be productive in their day-to-day work schedule. It also allows us to plug into the local community in a real way. So connecting with local innovators, artists, entrepreneurs, and people that will also ground us in the cultural experience of every place that we're in.
So I think to add to Alex, I think our virtual office there's a lot of infrastructure around that is non-virtual that makes it possible, and it allows us to be able to connect it into anywhere that we are really seamlessly, and it allows us to be productive. So.
Okay.
Like this too. These 3, 4, 5-way team calls. So we're always a small team who's always on the phone and always on Skype. So.
Okay. So now your company is called Unsettled, and I have here that you curate 30-day co-working experiences around the world for digital marketers, creatives, entrepreneurs, and people going through life transitions. Super interesting category of people. We'll talk about that. So tell us a little bit more about this. What is Unsettled and why? Why did you start this?
Yeah, I think the why comes out of a couple of areas. Initially, I think it was solving our own problem. We realized over the last 4 or 5 years that we could work remotely. We were living remotely at the time, but that it wasn't a great experience when done alone. Anybody can go out there and do this alone. Anybody can go, hop down to a place like Chiang Mai and set up shop. But the difference is when you're alone is, a lot of these people, they're already freelancers. They're already self-employed, sort of in that executive office by themselves, isolated. And we realized as soon as we could work remotely 4 or 5 years ago, that we wanted to do it with people. And so that's the real focus. Unsettled provides a lot of the infrastructure, the co-working space, which is important for this, the housing infrastructure, so people have a nice, comfortable place for 30 days. But really what we love to do, what everybody who comes on our retreats love to do, is that community and that experience element. John, you want to speak to that some?
Yeah, I think we really designed this as an experience at heart, as Michael said. It's not just a co-working trip or a co-working retreat. You can really drop in anywhere, plug in an office and be set, but to really be able to have an opportunity to grow, to gain perspective, to sort of be the best version of yourself and be with a group of people who are all pushing themselves to be their best version of themselves. It's a pretty amazing experience. And I think it comes about not only, as Michael said, with more people working independently and working freelance, but also just the number of people who are in transition today. I think the last statistic I read is that millennials are changing careers, not just jobs, but careers every 4 years, right? So you have more people going through transitions in life, in jobs, and they're looking for a sort of more structured break, right? Where they can be productive, they can focus on side projects, they can focus on new endeavors. and be able to do that in an environment where it is productive and it's not just like a 4-week vacation on the beach. So being able to combine that, freelancers and entrepreneurs and creatives with those who are sort of seeking to live more of that sort of lifestyle, provides a pretty interesting experience, for everybody.
And does everybody come to these co-working retreats they come with their own projects, their own work? It's basically entrepreneurs, they have their own thing. They just want to experience the digital, the location independent lifestyle. And Are these people that are just trying it out for the first time, or are they just looking for new experiences with other people? You probably have all kinds, I suppose.
Absolutely. So to your first question, people definitely bring their own work. It usually breaks down into sort of groups of thirds. So there's usually about a third of people over the last 4 years we've observed who sort of own their own business. And by nature of being that business owner, they can, with a little bit of planning, schedule something like this for a month. There's usually about a third of the people who come on these retreats who are full-time freelancers, often in the creative industries or development. A lot of designers, a lot of people in digital marketing. And then there's this really interesting third of people who are looking for transition, looking for growth, and they see this as an opportunity to get out of their comfort zone, to find new perspective, get out of their routine. And some of them are working on themselves maybe for that month. And then, John, to the second question, maybe you could.
Sorry, and the second part, if you could repeat the second part.
I'm not even remembering anymore.
Michael, you got a better memory than both of us.
Yeah, indeed. I don't know if Michael remembers. Okay, well, now when I go back and listen, I'll be like, oh, yeah. Do you remember, Michael, what the second part of the question was?
Sorry, you broke up. The second part of the question was, so the people.
Do we have basically it's a mixed bag.
Okay, of the kinds of people that are coming there.
Oh, the kinds of people. Yeah. So we have. So as Michael said, the third of the sort of types of people, or sort of where they're coming from, or the experience that they're looking for. I think we've had everybody from entrepreneurs who've started companies that are worth $500 million to people who are just transitioning from 5 or 10 years in a corporate career to do something totally different. We have a guy who founded a hammock company. We have designers. We have really a broad mix, and I think. What makes the Unsettled experience unique, and what we love about running it, is that you are bringing this really diverse cross-section of people from around the world, and not just industry, but location. I mean, we've had 25 different countries represented in our experiences so far, and that's a number we always hope to grow, because it is that sense of, if you're going to be in a new environment, looking for new perspective, doing it with a really interesting and new group of people kind of helps push you a little bit further. So, I think there's a lot of sometimes criticism levied against some co-working retreats that it's all just a bunch of guys from in tech, or a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I think what we strive for is something much more diverse and much more inclusive than that, because it does make it a richer experience.
And about sorry, Michael, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your second question, we absolutely have people who do this for the first time, and they're looking for a soft landing in their location, but we also have people who've been on the road. We have somebody with us right behind us in Medellin, Colombia now, who has sold all their belongings. It's a married couple. They have one suitcase and one carry-on, and they haven't had a home in over a year. So they're doing this full time, and they're quite an inspiration for us.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome to be able to do that. How many people are typically on a retreat at any time?
It's about 25 people, and we've had as many as about 42. We've gone tested all the way down to about 18, and about 25 people is a really great sweet spot. So, we do a lot of vetting. Jonathan and I, we think of this much more as a people company than a travel company, actually. So we're talking to every person who applies, because we want to show, we're investing in you, you're investing in us. And so that number of 25, you can definitely plan to connect really deeply with people on a really fun level with some people, on an adventurous level with some people. So it's a really solid number to connect in different ways, and there's always somebody there for you.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, 30 months is a commitment with 25 people that you may or may not know. So, okay, we had some frozen, but I was saying that 30 days is quite a commitment. To be traveling with 25 people. And what does is there a typical day? What would a typical day look like?
There is. And, 30 days, it does seem like a commitment, but you'd be amazed at how fast that flies by. I mean, you see part of our calendar up here, and we'll talk about a typical day, but when you get here, you suddenly realize there's only 3 or 4 weekends left as soon as you get here. And you're planning adventures in this new country, all of these workshops to collaborate with people, these new ideas, you're getting stimulation from everybody. So a typical day looks like, you walk out of your apartment, there's 3 or 4 people that are hanging out for breakfast. Maybe Unsettled is connecting you to a local gym or a local yoga studio. So we help people think of what is your dream routine, because now that you're out of your normal routine back home, you can implement this for 30 days. You can make and break habits in 30 days, like the old stage says. And so, a nice reflective morning often. People meet up at the co-working space, and there's almost always, at minimum, usually 2 workshops per day. So we have one going on as we speak. And these are workshops participant-led. So you can imagine if you have 25 entrepreneurs and freelancers from around the world with decades of experience in different topics, from user experience to, living a healthy lifestyle around food, the number of workshops you can have is just infinite. So on any given day, there's a couple of workshops, and oftentimes people work, throughout those workshops. Most participants come to those. We usually get together for dinner in the evening. Oftentimes a dinner party at somebody's house. We're cooking. It feels like home. It feels like a place. You're comfortable, and we sort of have a sofa rule at all of our accommodation. We want people to kick up their feet, take a nap on somebody else's sofa. We want this to truly feel like your home. So it kind of feels like being unsettled, but with a great home.
Wow, it sounds great. I have to say that I've been on the road a lot for giving workshops and presentations all over the world, and I like the idea of being in one place for a certain amount of time, because the constant on the go is totally exhausting. And for me, I know some people thrive in that, but for me, I'm very unproductive because, like you guys said earlier, I have to find Wi-Fi. It doesn't always work. The coffee shops are uncomfortable, or they're loud, or they're, whatever it is that you can do. So I really like this idea that you have this fixed spot that people can go and rally around.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guesswork in sort of traveling and working, and sometimes it can work out and sometimes it really doesn't. Like you said, you can end up bouncing between 4 coffee shops in one day, playing with Wi-Fi, playing with seats. There's a number of things that can go wrong, and I think being able to stay in one place for 30 days, it does give you a sense of being able to be a bit more grounded, and as Michael said, try out new routines, right? You can't, if you're constantly traveling every day, every week, you end up not really getting into a new routine. You're always looking at what's next and how do I get to the next place. And you're unable to really, I think, give yourself that time to step back and think and be productive and grow in the way that you want to grow. That's why we design these around a month. I mean, more than that, you're sort of getting into living there a little bit longer and maybe not being able to keep up those routines or keep them where you are. So it is sort of an optimal amount of time for people to try something out and have an experience that does give you perspective without having to, or being so short that you are kind of constantly having to worry about the things that are changing in your environment.
There's something else at play here, Lizette, that is, it's more of a macro level perspective, but I think it's worth mentioning in that, there are, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people traveling like this today. It's soon to be in the millions of people who are traveling and living like this. And if you think about going into a location for 30 days, I think of it as slow travel, right? A lot off the play of metaphor of slow food. When you spend 30 days there, you're shopping on Main Street, supporting small businesses as much as you're, on that Bourbon Street where the tourists always are, if you're just in there for 2 or 3 days. And so the economic impact of this sector, we're going to have millions of people over the next few years traveling like this. Not only is it going to be huge, but it's going to be so much more sustainable than other parts of the travel industry. And so if you thought, if it was 1970, the cruise industry was just forming, you had people in a room talking about what are the ports of calls. Imagine us doing that today with millions of global travelers who are working like this and able to set that up in the most sustainable way. It's going to be 100 times more sustainable than that short-term travel that's been going on yet. So for us, that's really exciting as well.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think of that part of it. It is really, that is really exciting because it just sort of evens out sort of global payments and distribution of everything. Where do you guys host your retreats?
So currently we're here running one in Medellin, Colombia, and we have about a half a dozen locations that are live and going on in the next few months. So we'll be in Medellin in February and March, and then we'll be in Bali in April and May. And then we'll also be in Buenos Aires, Argentina during April, Buenos Aires in May, And John, do you want to reveal any secrets, or are we going to wait to launch those in a couple weeks?
Yeah, the summer has a bunch of fun experiments and places to be announced, and then fall as well. We've had a lot of interest of future retreats, and we've sort of kept it under wraps as much as possible, mainly because we have an incredible 6 months to get through before that. But yeah.
Right. Oh man, now I'm dying to know. I'm so the anticipation. It's exciting. Yeah, indeed. But it's also good to focus, right? It's like, okay, we've got 6 months focus, and then, all right. When people are on these retreats, what is the stuff that they struggle with the most? What do people have a hard time with when they're there?
I think one of the one of the biggest challenges is a sort of different sense of self-discipline, right? I think it's very easy to get caught up in a new environment in a new city and want to go out all the time and explore, and you're with an amazing group of people, and there's so much going on at any given time. I think, when people do finally step out of their routine, let's say somebody who's just quit their job or is taking sort of a structured sabbatical to focus on their own project, when they do break out of that routine, sort of being able to balance that, work-life play scenario in a new place, it's just easy to get caught up. And so I think the challenge is, how do I really structure time for myself to be productive, to work on the things that I came here to work on, to be intentional, because we provide that space. We have the workshops, we have the impulses and the inspiration that comes through these different sessions, and obviously comes through the city itself. But making kind of time, and that's part of living sort of a more virtual lifestyle and working more remotely, is learning those habits of how can I balance my life out to have a great time where, I can be productive 6, 7, 8 hours a day in a place, and know that, the other waking hours, I'm going out and having a great time. So I think that's one of the challenges, is just sort of self-discipline and adapting to a new structure and learning how you're productive for people who are used to sort of being in an existing, let's say, 9 to 5 structure.
I was just going to add, I don't think there are actually any challenges that you don't have at home. And so I would encourage everybody to think this is something anyone can do. The challenges are going to be the same. And to John's point, it's balance. And I think almost everybody can empathize with that. Everybody looks for balance in their lives. It's very difficult to find at times. I think at times everybody finds it. And on these trips, it is one where, we speak a lot about that. We have workshops on this. And then when you're around new people, new ideas, new place, it can become that much more challenging to find that balance and stay true to yourself. I think that's one that we really emphasize. We ask people to make sure they find time for themselves, to stay true to themselves. And so, it's the same things at home as I find, it carries on the road wherever I go. My flaws, my imperfections, my habits come with me everywhere I go. And it doesn't matter how virtual or how in place I am. So.
Yeah, frustrating. You're like all the way around the other side of the world, and bad habits are still there.
No matter where you go, there you are.
It's true. That's what they meant by that. No, but I really like the idea of learning how to be productive, because I bet that you take a lot of these skills from the workshops and from the experience and bring it back into the normal life that you just left. I mean, there must be so much that you learn after you go back home or continue on the road wherever you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Your listeners will have to come on our trips to see, the amount of productivity habits we sort of think through. We almost always get together on one trip, and we get everybody in one room, and we say, open your laptops, open your phones. I'll get on the whiteboard and let's write down what kind of tools you use. We just have dozens of tools that come out, especially when you have people coming from different parts of the world, applications that have been built there. And like, wow, we didn't even know that existed. And so we just share, that, and as well as the time management aspect around that too. So it's one of our favorite workshops that we run here. And Alex is going to run into, I think she's looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to it, mostly because I'm very excited to hear what they have to say.
What are some of the most common tools or some of the most exciting tools that you guys have heard of in these workshops?
The most common and most exciting are very different. So
I bet. Okay, let's do both.
And nobody gets excited about email. And there's so many different ways, to do email out there. One small, application that I use, it shows when somebody emails me, their LinkedIn profile pops up, right there inside of my Gmail. And so I'm able to look right there. I get sort of an idea of who this person might be the first time we're communicating. And it just cuts down on that 30 seconds of new browser. And so, by the time you have dozens of ideas like that for email, it just cuts it down and makes it simpler. I mean, I'm like everybody else in the world. I want to get rid of email, but we can't. exciting ones. What have you guys seen that people get excited about?
I don't see that many people getting excited by tools.
Okay.
I think people, there's standard ones and people who, rave about Slack, or people who rave about, different tools like that. But I don't know. Part of it is also, I think, on these experiences, people sort of unplug and try new things, right? They sort of break out of the things that they've been using and say, okay, do I really have to be on Slack for the next month? Like, do I really have to use that 24/7? Or can I disconnect it from my phone and see what kind of space that gives me to explore new ways of being productive? Not that this is a digital detox in any sense, but people do try different things. We've had people totally unplug from all the tools that they use, actually fully unplugged from technology for a week when they were in Bali, and he came out of it a totally different person. I mean, he found this space that he'd never had. So I think it's as much about optimizing your life and optimizing the tools that you use as it is about sort of discovering how you can be productive in a different sense and how you can give yourself a bit of space. So that's just something that we found, I think, on some of these trips, especially in Bali, just given what it's known for.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of people go to Bali. It's sorry, I'm having a coughing fit. It's because this interview is full of all kinds of strange technical difficulties and weird difficulties. So try to cut that out. I do like the idea, though, of a digital detox. I think that's an interesting thing that people are doing on these retreats. Is that pretty common?
I think we haven't had too many on ours, but I think the idea of, you think about it, spending a month with 25 people, right? You're spending more time with those people than you would typically spend with your best friend, perhaps over an entire year, right? Because you're there every single day. So when you think about the time that you take connecting to other people, the time that you take in your daily life, really getting to know other people, it's not as much as you might think. And I think what people realize on these retreats is, you are surrounded by an amazing community and you're having these interactions all the time, and it sort of gives you this chance to disconnect naturally, where you don't feel this impulse to check your phone as much. You don't feel this impulse to hop on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or other platforms to communicate, because you're really, in a sense, much more present, just because you've intentionally set out to have this experience. And I think a lot of people do look at the Unsettled experience as a way to be present in a different format. They've realized they're kind of going through the hamster wheel in their daily life in a 9 to 5, or they're working remotely or in a co-working space, but still feeling quite isolated. To Michael's point at the beginning, so this is actually a chance for them to connect more deeply with people, and by nature, you sort of start to pull back from technology. That's not to say we do have a lot of WhatsApp groups and they're insanely active on the experience and not. I mean, I'm here in San Francisco, and I'm added to all the ones in Medellin with Michael, and it's like it's insane, but it's people sharing photos and where they are, and it's really interactive. It's like, hey, we're at this cafe, you guys should come over. It's really fun. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you get out of your normal routine and your normal rut, and that's what getting away, and that's what travel actually does for people, is that you're getting out of your normal circles and widening the perspective, I think, and that's probably the biggest thing. Why, I don't know if we touched on this, but why did you guys start this? What was the impetus? Because I think maybe you said in the beginning it was because you were traveling a lot and you wanted, but why do this for other people?
Because the first time we did this as a total experiment, it ended up being one of the best months of our lives. If you measure months around, if you measure life around months, it was just, such an incredible experience where we were looking within ourselves. I tried CrossFit for the first time. I was learning a language. I was learning all these productivity habits. I was face to face with people. I was cooking new things in a new culture, and I just came away, just my entire whole self. My work life, my personal life, my love life, everything was just there, and I was vulnerable, and I felt touched on all parts of my life. And so we just knew if walking away from that first experience, if it touched us that much, why would we keep it to ourselves? We had to share it. And, it really started organically. It started with friends of ours. The first time we did this, we had 40 friends show up in Bali with us. And after that, their friends came on the next retreat, and, your best friend's best friend is probably a pretty cool person. And we still get, most people from referrals of friends, people who still went on these original trips with us. So, it's a pretty strong community that we come into. And, I think we're still just as excited about it today as we were that first time.
You seem to be. The enthusiasm and the smiles, the way you talk about it is definitely, I mean, don't you wish everybody felt this way about their jobs? I mean,
Absolutely.
that would be the best. Could you go back to an office, do you think? Like
No.
working? Okay.
Short periods, let's say a week at a time. I think it's fun to have structure for a short period, and then remember why you left.
Maybe that's a good warning to your listeners, is that you can't unsee things in life once you see it. This is one of those, when you get out here and you realize, that you can do this. And don't get us wrong, it's a very privileged thing to do, and we get these great jobs. People work really hard to set this up, for a month at a time. And so we're very aware of that, we're how lucky we are to be doing this. But once you get out here and do that, it's really hard to go back to another life.
It's funny. I asked not everybody this question, but nobody could go back, and unless there was lots of money involved somehow. It has to be a big pile of money to go back to day prison.
Yeah, I don't even think it's money. I mean, I think it's one of the ways that I look at my own life is that I'm optimizing my wealth as not what I own, but sort of what I share and who I share it with, and it's these experiences that give me that. I mean, maybe 40s, 50s, and I'm a bit later in life. Money will be more important, but right now it's about having experiences. And I think having a network of people in a community is as valuable, if not more valuable, than having, a boatload of money that you're sitting on. I mean, I can stay in any number of cities around the world with friends for, indefinite period of time. That's a valuable asset. And for me, it's something that I can give and share. So it is just sort of a different way of looking at things, a different way of valuing what it is that's important to you in life at that time. And
I've always wondered about this. I've never been super rich. I wouldn't mind trying it, but I've always wondered about the super rich. Like, you have all this stuff, you have multiple homes and yachts and stuff, but how do you, I mean, what do you do with all that? So how do you possibly enjoy all those homes and yachts and all? I mean, I just can't even, I don't understand it. Why have all this stuff?
Hopefully so you can invite your friends to come hang out. That's what we do.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think some of the richest people might be some of the loneliest people.
Yeah.
I think John's point, the biggest asset in the world is being able to spend time with the people that you love and have the choice of where to do it and when to do it. And for that freedom, I think is invaluable.
Yeah, it seems to be the number one reason that people want to go remote is simply to have the freedom. And not everybody wants to travel the world. Some people just want to go running in the middle of the day and are not able to do that at their day jobs. And those restrictions really bind people, I think. And it's one of those things we're breaking free of now.
Yeah. We have about 20% of people who change their flights. Towards the end of this trip, I was talking to somebody last night who's going to change her flight. And oftentimes what comes with that is they begin to rethink, hey, that apartment I own back in London, could I put that on the market? What happens if I sell half of my things within that apartment? Do I have to go back home as quick as possible, as soon as I thought I did? And so we've seen people come on, for the first timers come on these trips with us, and they go home and they quite literally have sold their apartments, their flats, and they've, begun to live this lifestyle full time, and they've never looked back. So, the things that you can't unsee, it's, for better or worse, but it really motivates you to think about, how you spend your time and your money to that point of.
Are there people that shouldn't do this? Are there types that come on this retreat and they're like, it's not for me, can't do it, don't like it? Does that happen?
Yeah, one of our main slogans is embrace the unknown. And so you really have to be aware that when you're going into a new culture with a new group of people, language barriers, you have to have the mindset to embrace that, that uncertainty that's going to be there. Things are going to go wrong. There's going to be, annoying little moments when the language barrier is there. Most of the time it's kind of funny and we laugh about it, but there are moments where, you just don't know what's going to happen next. And if you're somebody who can't embrace that, this is not for you. But for everybody else who is seeking that out, sign up.
Indeed. Is there an age group that's common, or does it totally vary?
It's a little bit of both. So we've had people, I think, as young as 25, and I recently signed up to 70-year-olds, like a married couple who are just so looking forward to come in and to contribute. They're on the board of a major university in the U.S., and they just want to pass things on, down. And, we really appreciate that. We don't want this to be something for some specific group of people. The more diverse it is, the more experience we bring on it, the more we're all going to learn and take away. On the other hand, the average age is, it's mid-30s, people who are in, oftentimes, 10 to 15 years into their career, and they really feel like they need to be shaken up for a little while. And so that's, a lot of 30-year-olds, but 40-year-olds and 20-year-olds, it's a solid
range. Yeah.
Everybody's mature though. Even the 20-year-olds who seek this out, they realize that this isn't an experience to come and party somewhere for a month. We've never had that problem. It's something that we're really clear about. This is a very intentional month. And so people come who are established in their careers and who are mature in their lives.
Wow, it's good to hear. Yeah, I suppose the diversity is really what's key, is you want people from all over, from different cultures, different ages, everybody contributing to one particular thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've pulled about half of our participants between, the Middle East and Africa, which is great. We're 2 American co-founders. Every participant we've ever had, we've had, more women than we've had men. Another great thing, 2 male co-founders. And so this is an area where we just place, an overwhelming emphasis on, because, we think it's important. The easiest thing in the world would be for us to get a few bros together who want to code and sit by a pool for a month and have a nice cocktail. But that's not what this is about. This is so much more than that. And so we make sure to attract people who are so much more.
Awesome. Oh man. So I have 2 questions. We're nearing the end of the time. I have 2 questions, but one is advice for people who are just starting out on this journey. You guys have seen a number of them now on these different retreats. What would you tell somebody who's just starting out or just starting to explore? What should they be thinking about?
We can do one each. So mine would be to travel slow. To my earlier points, a lot of people think that they can hop down, to one country and then to a new city and then to a new country, time and time again. I really think, putting some roots down, for a month, a couple of months, you can, meet locals, you can learn enough language to interact with people in a different way. You can be more productive, but yet you're still not establishing a full-on routine, and you can explore, that city, the surrounding areas. I mean, you live in Amsterdam. It could take years. It can take lifetimes to explore some of these places. And it's the same everywhere we go. We have friends who've lived in Bali for 10 years now, and they're still finding new things to do. So don't rush to see the entire world. There's something with this digital nomad sort of mentality that people feel like they want to make it a year-long trip and get everywhere, put roots down and enjoy it. So that's my advice, John.
Yeah, that's a great one. I would say back to sort of one of our principles of be true to yourself. I think part of this journey is finding out what works for you. And what works for you is not what works for everybody, and what works for everybody is not always what works for you. And I think taking the time to, as Michael said, like put roots down and find a way to kind of understand your rhythm, I think is really important. When I find myself moving too much, I realize I have to stop because I'm losing productivity. I'm not able to focus. So it's understanding what it is that allows you to be productive, right? So whether it's, you realize that every morning if you go for a surf and then you work for, 8 hours a day and then you go for a surf at sunset and that's your routine, that's great. Like, how can you structure that in different environments, right? Maybe if you're in a city, then you go for a swim, or maybe, there's different ways of doing it. And I think understanding how you are, or when and how you are most productive and what influences that, and then starting to, over time, match environments and go to places that you can find that is something to be conscious of. Like Michael said, it's not a race to travel the world. This isn't, I have to hit 20 countries as a remote worker by the end of this year. Like, it's not, that's sort of an aggressive mentality to go about it. I think it's much more about you're doing this for yourself, and so how can you really treat yourself in a way that allows you to be true to yourself and productive and get what you want out of these experiences.
Can I cheat and add one more?
Yeah, of course. The more advice, the better.
You have to be open when you go on these. I said 20% of people change their flights. They're the ones who come with this mentality, to be open to fall in love with a new location and say they're the one to fall in love with a person you're going to meet when you're traveling. You just got to be open to try things in new ways. You can't come in with this fixed mindset of this is how this is going to go. This is how, my desk is going to look. This is how I'm going to be productive. You'll take so much more out of it if you're just open to embracing that. So I think, I think those are 3 pretty solid ones. We've been doing this for, over a decade combined, and we still work on those things. We still have to be open and be as adaptive as we can. So be true to yourself, be open, and travel slow.
And Alexandra, do you have one?
Yeah, absolutely. To Michael's point, I would say, be true to yourself, but also challenge yourself, continue to push yourself, go beyond what you think you can do or what you'd want to do. And I think it's so easy to be comfortable, to just stay in your box, even if you're going abroad or starting this journey. I think the real magic and the real growth happens when you're pushing yourself beyond what you feel is your comfort zone. And in fear of being cliche, embrace the unknown. But just today, this morning, I signed up for a conversational Spanish class, which scares the crap out of me. To be totally honest with you, I signed up a little bit above my level. It makes me nervous, but I know that's where the learning and the growth will happen. So that's just a small example, and I think we're all able to embody that in our own ways.
What I really love about what you guys and what's highlighted, I think, in this interview with you is so many managers at companies are so afraid that when they let people do flexible working and remote working, that they're going to just lay on the couch, and they're doing it because they want to be lazy. And it's so, the opposite is so true. I mean, all of your advice, you're in exotic locations or beautiful locations, but all of your advice is challenge yourself and be open and be curious and stretch your limits. And even I think your quote that you have here, it's a living outside of your routine as a way to build a fulfilling lifestyle. And so all of that points to, like, managers have this really old school view of what people really want out of their flexibility and what people want out of travel. So I love that you guys highlight that without meaning to.
We're getting more and more managers who are coming to us, with their teams, because they're beginning to identify that. How incredible could it be if your team could go out, be productive for that month, but they get this entire recharge? It's the sabbatical without the sabbatical part. And so we're getting people signing up from around the world to do that. And, we've seen people go home and their family members, their team members at work, think of them as an entirely different person. It's like you're going on vacation, but still being productive. It's a really valuable point you're making.
Yeah, and to add to that, I mean, we have 2 managers or employers here who have already talked about extending this opportunity to their team because they've seen how valuable it's been for them. And I think, as this idea kind of settles in and sinks in, we'll see more and more of that, of actually employers coming and wanting to offer this as the growth of a professional and a personal growth opportunity to their teams.
Yeah, totally. I mean, managers are people too. This seems like a natural thing to want, right? They probably want freedom too. So we can just make it work. Then, so I hope there's a bunch of managers listening. So last question, which is, if people want to get in touch, if they want to sign up for one of your retreats, what's the best place to go? Where should they log in?
Just go right to our website. It's beunsettled.co. It's unsettled.co, and you can find all the retreats that are coming up. You can apply right there on that. So, we ask some questions to learn a little bit more. And quite frankly, we just set up a Skype conversation almost as soon as you sign up because, like we said, this is a people company. It's not a travel company. And so we really encourage people to go there. And one thing, sort of a point, to leave off if your listeners are thinking about this, we sort of tell everybody before you sign up, make sure you're 110% in. Make sure you feel this in your bone marrow because we want people, if you can imagine 25 people coming from around the world with that attitude, that excitement is palpable, you feel it in your hands. And so that's when we want your listeners to come to our website and to sign up. And they really know they're going to step in, they're going to be full participants in this experience. They're going to come to the workshops, they're going to turn their phones off, they're going to be present at the dinner parties. That's when we want, your listeners to sign up.
Yeah, indeed. If you want a vacation sitting by the pool, there's plenty of other companies out there that will provide your vacation by the pool. This is like a co-workation or a work holiday, or do you guys have a word for it?
Unsettled.
Unsettled. Love it.
Nothing else fits.
Brilliant. Thank you guys so much for telling your story today. I hope you get contacted by a lot of people and a lot of managers. I hope you're changing minds of a lot of those old school managers out there. Thank you guys so much. And for everybody who's listening, sorry?
I hope we see you out here sometime.
Oh man, I would love to come to Colombia. I've never been, so that's already on my list because I've never been. So thanks everybody, and until next time, be powerful.